Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us today for a conversation with the S. Joseph Bruno award-winning schools. So I'm Carlos Gonzalez. I'm the executive director of Hive Preparatory School and Beacon College Preparatory School, both of them here in Miami-Dade, Florida. Fortunately, one of our schools, Hive, was one of the S. Joseph Bruno Award winners last year. So I feel your pain, I feel your joy, and your excitement. So the hardest part was getting on this couch. Like, it takes years, it takes hard work, it takes a lot of success, a lot of failure, a lot of emotions to just get to the point of applying and then getting through the application process and then getting all the way over here. So let's sit back, let's enjoy the time we're here. And if we can get started by introductions.
My name is Trey Smith, and I am the executive director at East Mountain High School. We're in Sandia Park, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Carla Love. I'm the executive director for Southtech Schools, and we're located in Boynton Beach, Florida.
I'm Joanne Woodard. I'm the founder and the executive director of Sally B. Howard School of Arts and Science in Wilson, North Carolina.
All right, so we'll get started with the ubiquitous secret sauce question. So surrounded by a difficult state academically, not a lot of resources, not a lot of support. You mentioned yesterday towards education, towards academics. I think just like adding time was like genius in the moves. Having to divert a lot of the attention from what is standardized testing and academic focus to having such rigorous, non-necessarily academic programming, and yet you're still also sitting here. And then having so many challenges, having such a large enrollment and many years in between, not just COVID, before and after, but yet you guys are still up here. You were successful, you've sustained success. So we'll start over here with Sally B. Howard. Your secret sauce, when someone asks you that question, what's today's answer? Because I know I've given like 17 different versions.
Well, first of all, we've been around a long time. We started in 1997, one of the first 32 charter schools in the state. And we had the happy pleasure of having a legendary school teacher by the name of Sally B. Howard to guide and direct us. So, for example, when we were approved to operate the school in 1997, I went straight to Sally and I said, Sally, we have a school coming now and we need to hire some good teachers. What are the qualifications we need to look for? And she said quickly, without hesitation, they gotta love the children. And if they don't love the children, they can be of no use to us. And if they love the children, we can teach them everything they need to know to be successful. So one of our secret sauces is Sally B. Howard herself. She lived to be 102 years old, in her right mind and at the school as often as she could be. So we had her around to teach and train us and tell us how we needed to operate with teachers, with parents, and all of that. So that's what the first thing that comes to my mind. And if it wasn't for Sally B. Howard, we really wouldn't have had a successful school. We wouldn't have had a school at all.
Okay, I think just before the session started, Joanne and I were talking about the fact that I think one of the keys, one of the secret sauces is great people at your school. And great people who love the children, love what they do, and want to be there. Now, what I also know is that's not always easy, or it's always a continual process to have great people. So I'd say in addition to that is being focused, knowing what you do and staying focused on that and using your data to reflect on, is the data say that we're maintaining our focus and that we're doing what we need to do? I think that those two things are part of the secret sauce.
It's such a difficult question and one that we wrestled with for many years. And to the end that we decided, we hired a consulting firm last year, paid a decent amount of money to answer that exact question. What is your secret sauce? All of these students, all of these families, and all of these schools keep wanting to learn from our model, and we wanted a better answer. What is the magic to making East Mountain such a great place? So we worked with this firm and they came in and they did some site visits, they took some tours, and they worked with our faculty and our students for months. And they helped us boil it down to a program model of 4 pillars. And these 4 pillars were the thing they said that really made our school stand out. And the first pillar was an inquiry active-based learning model in all classes. You don't walk onto our campus and see any student sitting in desk, listening to lectures, zoning out, being absorbed by their Chromebooks. Students are up around the room, moving and engaging with the material. The second aspect is leadership and enrichment. We, as a charter school, it can be difficult to offer a wide range of extracurriculars, but we embrace that. In fact, it's part of our model. So we offer 14 different sports. We have a really impressive debate program, robotics, music, art. And so that's not just extra stuff we do on the side, it's embedded into our program. Our third pillar is authentic relationships. We all know that if you don't like your teacher, you're probably not going to learn well from them. And so we take the social emotional learning part really seriously. And finally is a supportive environment. Being a high school campus of about 420 students, every single staff member knows every single student, and you just cannot slip through the cracks in a model like that. And so we know immediately if a student's not showing up for class, if a student is tardy a bunch of times, there is a support system moving in quickly to make sure that they're going to get across that graduation stage. And I think that's one of the reasons we have the highest graduation rate in the state, is because of that support system. So that was a really great question that you asked, but also we've been asking ourselves, and we continue to wrestle with it to define that as we take on the next 25 years in our school's history.
Yeah, it's actually great answers by everyone. Your answer transitions us well to the next question, which is balancing academics and non-academics. So the needs of the families. Schools are more than just academic, and the community really wants and needs a lot more from us, sports, clubs, and beyond. So how have you balanced that? And do you see the future changing with regards to more or less support?
I moved to Albuquerque as a freshman in high school. I was originally from Louisiana. I moved to the city where I didn't know anybody. And the first person who talked to me in this new city was my 9th grade English teacher, who was also the speech and debate coach. And it was him who saw me sitting alone at lunch, and he said, "You should join the speech and debate program." And when I did that, I point to that moment in my life as the transformational moment where everything else happened after that. When I joined that speech and debate program in high school, that's when I knew I wanted to go into education. That's when I knew I wanted to be an education leader. And I point to that moment. And I still have coffee with that debate coach twice a year. And so the importance of extracurriculars cannot be understated, I think, in schools. That's the thing that keeps a lot of students going. And so whenever you have those discussions as a charter leader, those are strategic discussions you have to make as part of your operational budget. Offering a full athletics program probably costs us $250,000 out of our operational budget, but that's a decision we are making. We probably could have hired 3 more teachers with that money, but we know we want to offer athletics because that's what's keeping kids coming to class, and that's what's keeping kids coming to school. So we offer this really robust athletics, extracurricular programming because that's what's keeping those students engaged. And years from now, that's what they're going to point to. That's going to be the thing that stands out to them as the transformational moment in their high school experience.
In your video and your application, and also doing a little bit of research, some of your, or most of your extracurriculars are like nationally renowned.
Yes.
Is there a role you as a school leader plays with this, or is it just amazing coaches that keep falling on your lap?
Well, I mean, we keep finding great people, but you also have to make sure you're giving the resources and autonomy to those great people. And so when my robotics coach comes to me and says, "Look, we've got to raise $15,000 so we can get to this competition in Dallas. We're going to find a way to make it happen." And so that's something I've told all of our extracurriculars. Money, finances is never going to be the thing that holds you back. If you're going to qualify to that national tournament, if you're going to go compete on behalf of our school and increase the prestige of our school, I'm going to find a way to make that happen. So I have a policy. I've never told any extracurricular no on our campus, and that's definitely got us into some trouble at some point. But that's what you have to do, is find the right people and then give them the resources to make those dreams of those kids come true.
At Southtech, you're pretty much just as much academics as you are the non-traditional academics. And when we were there for the governance conference a few months ago, it was amazing. Like just everything that was there, and it was the quality too, right? It wasn't just like an automotive program, it was modern. What were those plants? Were those like mini greenhouses? Yeah, hydroponics that were all over the place, and they were well maintained, they were scientific, they were well used. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in general, my answer for Southtech to our question about balancing all of those things is finding areas where they overlap. So for example, our hydroponics towers have an academic application, right? So many science lessons, so many things that you can learn there. But we also can tailor that to the interests of our students outside of a traditional science classroom. So they're interested in gardening and horticulture. And for example, our agriculture program actually started as an outcropping of a genuine interest in hydroponics. We got a couple of grants for a couple of towers, and we didn't really expect it, but our students were enthralled, our teachers were enthralled, and our other career academies, they wanted to have some connect. They wanted a hydroponic tower in the cosmetology lab. And they said, you know what? In the cosmetology lab, we could grow peppermint, and we can use peppermint in making some hair and skin products. And so they organically, no pun intended, started finding all of these connections between the career academies and their science classes and their extracurricular interests. And so I think part of it is just paying attention to what the students and the teachers are interested in. And if you, rather than force something on them, right, you find what they already are expressing an interest in and you run with it. And I think that makes all the difference for us at Southtech.
I'm going to agree with that too, because most of the extracurriculars and expansion of CTE programs come from the interests of the teachers, and that's always been the case. We haven't always been a high school. That came in 2020 after about 25 years being a K-8, but still we've invested in our science program, our biotechnology program, with partly because in eastern North Carolina, in our Wilson County, we have the second largest number of pharmaceutical and medical manufacturing companies right there. And in eastern North Carolina, students tend to want to stay close to home. They're not trying to go to California, most of them. So we took advantage of what was right there for us. And the biotech that we invested in took a good turn with our community colleges, who also have biotech associate's degrees and all of that. So we have really flourished because of what the resources are that are available to us in our community, and the kids have really held on to that. We've also expanded the CTE, the Career Technical Education component, and so that's attracting, and the kids are very interested in that. I want to say that the biggest secret to our success is the staff and the teachers and the leaders that we have at Sally B. Howard. I have in the audience our director of instruction, for example, and when we got on that trajectory of becoming the top 1% because of the students' accomplishments, their success on the state exams, it was because she brought the knowledge. She's a scientist, for crying out loud. And scientists know everything there is to know about the brain and how you learn and how you retain. And she put all of that into our professional development program so that teachers, like, their eyes were wide open. Oh, the child is only going to remember 4 things that I say when I give my 1-hour lecture, so maybe I'll do something a little different. So the people are the ones who have really brought us, they are the secret sauce. I just wanted to say that.
Now that skyrocketing you mentioned, that was like immediately after COVID. And it was as you grew, correct? Like you were growing into high school, your enrollment increased dramatically. It wasn't a small growth, and it was at one of our most difficult times, but yet your school just skyrocketed.
As a matter of fact, the year that we expanded to high school was the COVID year. And we had a beautiful campus that we had built, and nobody could go in there. Everything was virtual that year. So, yeah, it did grow, it has grown, and we've invested a lot in our high school. But yeah, COVID put us back a little bit.
All right, everyone's favorite. Think of a student that blossomed, changed, just excelled, and that you can attribute to your school, your culture.
When I think about a student who had an impact on my life, I think about this moment. I was sitting at home. This was back in 2018, I think, 2018. And I was getting a phone call. And as an elder millennial, I hate phone calls. I don't want to answer the phone ever. And so I was wondering who's actually calling me. I look down and I see it's a student. And so I realize, okay, this is probably an emergency. I get pretty scared. I guess I have to answer this phone call. And so I do answer it. And she's crying. This is my student. Her name is Gina. And she is crying on the phone. And I can't make out what's going on with her. And I could finally get her to say, Mr. Smith, I just got into Stanford. And it was a happy call. And these were tears of joy. And then I said, oh my gosh, Gina, this is amazing. You got to tell, like, what did your parents say when you told them? And she said, I don't know, because you were my first call. And this relationship that I formed with this student from freshman to senior year, helping her, like, this is a student who, in a single parent household, decided to join our debate program and found her voice in debate. And this is when I was coaching the debate program too. And to see that her dream could come true and that she was pointing to our school and my mentorship with her as the reason she got this full ride to Stanford was an incredible moment. And we just have stories like that all over our campus all the time, where it's these relationships that our teachers and our students build that have blossomed into amazing things. And now that student is just graduated from the London School of Economics. Now she works for the British Red Cross, doing amazing things. So that's a story that really sticks out to me.
There are lots, right? And so I'm sitting here as I'm listening to Trey thinking, what am I going to tell you about? But what I want to tell you about is a student that's at our school right now. His name is Obi. One thing we haven't talked too much about Southtech is that in addition to our middle and high school students, we also have a transition program. We have about 120 students on our campus that are 18 to 21-year-olds who have deferred their diploma because they're students with disabilities, and they are staying on in school with us to do careers and workforce readiness. And Obi's one of those students. He's one of our transition students. And I picked him out because the role that I'm in now, I don't get to, it's not like when I was in a classroom, right? And I got to interact with every student every day. And so a lot of them, they don't know me well. They know who I am, but they don't know me well. And Obi's in our veterinary assisting program and is a star in that program. In fact, he has gotten a placement where he, in addition to being in class and working on his veterinary assisting work, he has been going one day a week now to work with a client's dog that is getting prepared to be a service dog, and he's going and helping them train this dog to be a service dog. But I think of Obi today because every day when Obi gets ready to leave, his way out of the school is right past my office, right down the hallway past my office. And every day, no matter what, he says, "Bye, Miss Lovett, bye, Miss Lovett." And it's just a spark of joy. He's so happy. He's so successful. And it just means a lot to me that he wants to say bye to me every day. And I think that that's just one little tiny example. There's all of us, everyone here probably has 1,000 of those. But I'm thinking about Obi today.
Well, one of the things to know is that we're a school for the arts and education, and that's from the very beginning. So we have a lot of students who come to Sally B. Howard and discover their talent as actors and singers, dancers. They start their fine arts training in second grade. Kindergarten and first grade, they have to rotate to every arts special we have so that they can kind of discover, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go to dance anymore. I want to go to acting. We do some cool things in there. So at second grade, they start to narrow down. The parents start to know, the teachers start to know. So one of the great things about our school is that the joy of seeing kids discover, hey, I am so good at that. I love that. Can I do that every day now? They get accepted into drama schools. They get accepted into dance programs, the top dance programs in the state, and they pursue a career in that. When these little poor kids that never could have afforded any kind of private dance class or private music, never, that would not have happened. They barely ever leave their neighborhood. They barely ever leave their neighborhood to go to Raleigh, just 45 minutes away, let alone get on a plane and go across the continent.
This award that you're a part of is considered the Model Charter School Award. And the idea is that you are more than one component. You are innovative, you empower. So when you hear that term, a model charter school, what do you think of?
We opened in 1999, one of the first 5 charter schools when the charter law in New Mexico went into effect. And we grew pretty quickly. We got to be about 360 students, and we stayed at 360 just because we could for the better part of a dozen years. And then coming out of the pandemic, realizing, and when I took over this role 6 years ago, having to make those calls on the wait list to those families who just are not going to have a shot to get in. Those were the most difficult conversations I would have to have with families who said, what do you mean? We moved to this area because we want to go to your school, and you're saying there's no shot. And so I had to lead some difficult conversations with the staff to say, we cannot be satisfied just staying at 360. We've got to find ways to expand our enrollment and get more students here. And so over the past 4 years, we've gone from 360 to we're now up to 440. And that's not with any additional classroom space. We've been able to hire more teachers, but we've had to be real creative with our facilities. And similarly, now we're taking on this new ambitious project of adding a middle school in 2 years. And again, we could have been comfortable just coasting. 360, teachers are happy, students are happy, not rocking the boat. But being a model charter leader means you have to ask yourself those bigger questions. What does our community need? And what do our students need? And there are students in our area who really want to go to this school. And we have an obligation to find ways to make seats to get them in there. And I think that's the difference about being a model charter leader, is asking those questions. What can we do differently to better serve our communities constantly? It makes your job harder, for sure, but that's where the magic is, and that's where the real leadership in the charter world is, I think.
I agree with Trey wholeheartedly that if you're a successful charter school and you think, okay, we made it and we're done and here we are, and then you become stagnant and then you have problems. So I agree with you that I think the definition, one component of the definition of a model charter is to always be thinking about what's next and how do we stay relevant and important for our community. I also think, to me, another component of a model charter school is your willingness to reach out to others, be a support to others, other charter schools. I mean, I believe in this movement. I've been in the charter school movement since 2008, and I left a traditional school district job to do a startup charter, and I took that big risk because I truly believed in the charter school movement and what charter schools represent. And I think that if you're going to have the identification of a model charter, that you have to be part of the charter school community and believe in helping everyone else that you can help to grow and thrive.
Okay, so what I'm thinking about are our parents. You know, remember Barack Obama said when he was in the White House and there was some big disaster in New York State? He said to the FEMA people, he said, when somebody calls you, find a way to say yes. You won't be, in other words, don't say no to anybody's need. And that always stayed with me. And when we started our school, I shared that with the front office people, especially. So we serve a marginalized community, number one. And these parents would go to the traditional public school and they'd be standing there waiting for somebody to acknowledge them. So they weren't treated with respect often. And that means a lot to me that that's who we are. And that makes us very distinct. It makes us a model school. That's part of what makes us a model school. That's part of why people want to come there. Not only because how we treat their children, but how we treat their parents as well. So I'm proud of that. I love that. That just moves me. And that's important to us.
Before charter schools, was public education really looking to be better every year, better every day? Were they fighting this is easy, but we could be better, we could serve more? And my guess is probably not so much. And the ripple effect that charters have done to public education and leaders like yourselves are going to go beyond the student you told the story about and even the students in your school, because it just changes around. I know I read a report years ago about teacher salaries just going up across the state because of charter competition, magnet options and choices for schools beyond just the charter schools because of the presence of the charter schools. So listening to your answers, just seeing that like such successful schools are thinking of more, how just that's going to just improve lives from people you're never going to meet. All right, think about the time you failed in your schools. Something just didn't go well, and what the audience would probably like to know, and I know the community likes to know, is how do you handle that? So you had an initiative or your game plan that you did with your school or your school community, and it just didn't go well.
When you are trying to create a culture where faculty want to stay, which we have a culture is like that. I think the average tenure of our faculty is 13 years. Like teachers come to our campus and they want to stay there. And a lot of them point to the autonomy that they have on our campus to create a lot of the curriculum and create the instructional practices that they use. But sometimes that autonomy doesn't result in the outcomes you want. And we started to notice that with our math instruction. We had some math teachers who'd been there for 15 plus years, but they also were teaching math in a way that looked like when I was in school and how I was getting math instruction. And that was just the comfortable way to deliver math, which is, repeating the same problem 40 times over and over. And so just 2 years ago, we got our proficiency data from the state, and our math scores were at 23% proficiency. So I'm comfortable saying it, as a model charter leader, that we should not be comfortable having a less than a third of our students proficient in math. So that was an area where that autonomy just was not leading to the outcomes we wanted. So we had to intervene and we had to have some difficult conversations. And we hired a national board math teacher 3 years ago who came in and just revolutionized what we were doing. And she has been a driving force behind our math instruction. Her name is Jennifer Webb. She's also a presidential award for math. She just got that presidential award for mathematics teaching. And ever since we embraced this new model, in 1 year, our math proficiency scores doubled. And I also like to say about our teaching philosophy on our campus, autonomy is important, but it has to be backed up by just as much collaboration. So you can't just do autonomy and leave teachers alone. Those teachers have to be in each other's rooms. And that was something when we worked with our consultant firm, they said they've never seen a campus like ours where staff were helping each other out, staff were going into each other's rooms, our staff are observing each other. That's part of the requirement, is you have to go observe your colleagues a few times a semester. And that level of collaboration they had never seen. And so I think once you've got to have the autonomy, but you also have to back it up with that extreme level of collaboration to find that magic.
Well, first, I would like to say, based on Trey's comments, that we've struggled with academic scores as well and testing scores. And I think that the message I would share with the audience is, anyone listening to us talk about our great schools, please don't think we're perfect. Please don't think we don't have challenges. Please don't think it's always easy. It isn't. So don't feel like, oh my goodness, they've just got it all figured out and we're struggling at our school. No, we all struggle at our schools too. So just a comment about reassuring you that it's never easy. And then I would say, for what I'm thinking about at Southtech is, whether you consider this a failure or not, because we're career and technical focused and we have all of these career academies, we have 12 right now. We can't just put 12 career academies in place and leave them be for 20 years because things change, whether it's the needs of the community and the industry, the certifications that are available, or whether it's that you have a teacher change, right? So your star teacher in this one program was, just blowing everybody's socks off and everything was great, and then that person retires. And your new person, then you're rebuilding that program. Or you have to say to yourself, the strengths of the people that I have working in this program now are different than the previous people. So how do we pivot to make best use of their strengths and the best thing for the students? So I think that it's always examining. So in other words, right this minute, some of our academies aren't as fully enrolled as we'd like them to be. And so we have to examine, why is that? Is it the students, or the students and their interests changing, or is it the teaching staff, and what are all those components? So I think, similar to what I said earlier about staying focused and continuing to look at your data, I think you have to do that constantly, no matter what aspect you're looking at in your program.
Well, I was thinking that one of our challenges is to stay open-minded, especially at the level of leadership. Because if you're the person that has the authority to say no, then, you might want to use that. But you also might want to just stay open to hearing other viewpoints. When we opened the high school in 2020, I told you it was virtual, but now we have lots of sports, and we never had any for 25 years. We were K-8, we had no sports because we were a school of arts and science, and that was our main thing. This new principal came in from the district, oh my God, and he was a sports fanatic. That's his whole life, and he'd been in the district for like 40 years. So he came to Salary Hour. Everybody said, oh, get this man. Well, I said, fine, if some board members knew him and all that. And we had a struggle about sports. And I really did have to open my heart and mind and say, okay, well, let's go do that. And that was just the first of many things I had to open my mind and heart about. So I think the challenge is to stay open to new ideas and new directions and new things, even when you have the authority to say no.
I got to say, you guys are an impressive group of leaders. Your schools are amazing. Doing the research, watching the videos, reading the essays was quite impressive. I hope one day we get to visit your schools and see your school culture, and then obviously friends to make phone calls, because I too have many challenges and many problems with my secret sauce. So again, thank you guys for sharing this moment, and congratulations.